I'm Jason Taktagian with Armenian Sports News, and today I have a very special guest with me. She has no need for an introduction. She was the first gymnast to represent Armenia at the Olympics. Houry Gebeshian, how are you doing right now?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on the podcast and joining us to talk a little bit about the Olympics and a little bit about yourself as well, and sharing some of the some of the older stories that you have and some of the really remarkable stories that you have in sports, and also talking about the upcoming Olympics in Paris. So let's jump right into it, and let's talk about the Olympics that are coming up in Paris. I mean, just first and foremost, what are you excited or most excited to see? What are some events that you have that you're looking forward to taking a watch?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I competed in gymnastics my entire life, so I will be watching all of the gymnastics or as much of the gymnastics as I can. I have it blocked off in my schedule. So definitely that. And then I love to watch Team Armenia and whatever events that they're doing. So, there'll be some wrestling, there'll be some weightlifting. We have male gymnasts, so that's excellent. Track and field, swimming, all sorts of stuff. But anything I can watch over the next, or the 2 week span of the Olympics is going to be on my TV.
Absolutely, especially following all the Armenian athletes that are going to be in Paris, like you just said. That's definitely something that folks like you and I, especially you are an Olympian, take so much more pride in than other folks. And I want to talk a little bit about that, just in case anybody doesn't really know your story. Summer 2016, that was in Rio, Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. That is when you made history for Armenia, becoming the first gymnast to represent the nation officially at the Olympics. I want to just kind of talk to you about that because obviously it's not just a overnight thing that you wake up and you become an Olympian. I'm sure there was a lot of work and effort that went into this, years of training, years of qualification beforehand. Just tell me first and foremost about that journey to qualify for the Olympics for the first time. What sort of part of your life were you in? What was going on in your life that you were kind of doing as well as training and doing something that you enjoyed, like gymnastics?
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to correct you first before we jump in. I was the first female gymnast to represent Armenia at an Olympic Games. We have had male gymnasts, great athletes there, but just want to make sure that I'm
Okay.
not stealing that title. But I was the first female gymnast to
Okay,
represent the
because
United States.
I did think that it was just first male or female because it wasn't officially under Armenia, like it was under the USSR. But you know what? We're gonna go with what you're saying. Regardless, it's still historical. Still something that is notable in just sports, not just women's sports, but sports in general.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that then. Let's talk about, just what that path was like for you to get to Rio.
Yeah, yeah. So my journey was a little untraditional. I competed at the Olympic Games at the age of 27. So I was a bit older than the rest of the field at that time. Now it's actually getting older, which is excellent. There's a little bit more longevity in gymnastics for women, which is great. But for me, I actually tried for the 2012 Olympic Games, fell short of that by one spot, which was devastating. And then I stepped away from gymnastics, really not wanting to do anything with it. It was heartbreaking to be so close and not make it. And so I decided to pursue a career in medicine. I went to physician assistant school. Um, I did 2 years of graduate school, and then after graduating and becoming a physician assistant, I decided, you know what? I miss gymnastics. There's kind of this hole, this missing piece. I was so close last time, so why not just give it a try again this time? And so then I kind of made a plan in 2013 to try for the 2016 games, and I started training like the summer of 2014 and had about 2 years to get back in shape, get things going, find a gym, figure out how to make it, and ultimately the the happy ending happened, and I did end up qualifying to the 2016 Olympic Games.
And that's no easy feat on its own, but I want to make sure that we highlight what you did say. You went into the medical field to become a medical assistant and still found time to train and qualify for the Olympics.
Yeah, a physician assistant.
A
So,
physician
which
assistant.
now I think the name has changed to physician associate. So I probably should use the right name there. But yeah, I'm a PA. I worked full time as a PA, and I trained on my off days from work. And I had an amazing boss that really supported my dream and helped me make it happen. So.
Yeah, and there's one image that really stands out to me, and it's a photo of you in the delivery room. Like, tell me a little bit about, what was it that you were doing in that job where you were learning to do, and some of the things that you were involved in, and then, like you said, the next day, your off day, you're switching outfits, and now you're, in the gym.
Yeah, so at that time I worked in labor and delivery. So I would assist in deliveries in the operating room. I would see patients on the floor. I was part of their whole labor and delivery and postpartum experience as their healthcare provider. And it was wonderful. It was exciting. It was thrilling. I'm there at people's best day of their lives. I'm also there at people's sometimes worst day of their lives. So it was a very roller coaster job that I absolutely loved. And it was actually a really great balance because it allowed me to kind of turn my mind off from gymnastics for a little bit, focus on, medicine, focus on my job. And then when it was time to be in the gym, I was able to kind of turn that off and focus on my gym stuff. So it was busy, it was hectic, but it was a good balance for me.
For sure. Now you mentioned balance, and I wanted to ask the next question, but I'm not sure how you're gonna answer it. I was gonna say you like to balance those two parts of your life from one another. But did you ever have that in conversation with your fellow workers that, hey, on my off days, I'm in the gym training to possibly qualify to represent my nation at the Olympics. Like, does that ever come up, and what type of reaction do you get?
Yeah, it definitely came up. And actually, when I first applied for that job and my job interview, I told my, boss, or potential boss, hey, I just want to let you know I am gonna be training for the Olympic Games. If I make it, I'm gonna be taking, pretty much a month off in August of 2016 so that I can compete at the Olympics. And I don't know if he took me seriously. I don't know if he just liked that drive and that passion that I had, but a day later I got the call that I got the job, which was awesome. But all my coworkers knew they were phenomenal because leading up to the Olympics, I had training, I had competitions I had to go to, so I had to take time off. I had to switch my schedule around, and they were phenomenal in supporting my dream and helping me in any way that they could.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to talk about that qualification to 2016. Do you remember the day you qualified? Just, do you remember like, what that reaction was like whenever you did get the qualification, who you talked to, and also whenever you told work that you actually qualified, what they ended up, how they ended up reacting?
Yeah. So the way that I qualified, or the Olympic process for an individual like me was to first compete at the World Championships. So I did that in October of 2015. From there, you qualify to the Olympic test event. So that was in April of 2016, I think.
Mhm.
And then from there, you earn a spot for the Olympic Games. So it was, a stepwise process. I knew that if I had did my job at the World Championships, I could, get a spot for the Olympic test event. And then same thing, if I just did my job, then I could earn that spot. And at the test event, I had, a great meet. I hit all of my routines. And I walked off, floor was my last event, and I walked off floor just feeling like, hey, you know what? Like I put everything out there, and if I did it, I did it. If I didn't, I didn't. But I feel pretty confident that I did. And then we didn't get like the official, like who qualified and who didn't qualify until like the middle of the night. We got an email with like all of the qualifiers, and I was just like in my hotel room waiting and waiting and waiting just for that to come through so I could have the official document that said you are an Olympian. And so yeah, that's kind of how it happened, and that's when I knew.
That's really cool. You still have that document?
It's probably saved on my computer somewhere or in my email somewhere, but
Yeah.
yes, it's just the list of athletes that made it through.
Now,
So.
before I go into talking about your time in Rio, I want to just make sure that it's well established for everybody. Gymnastics is not just something you picked up overnight. I want to make sure folks know that you have been a gymnast for, what would you say it's fair to say most of your life you've been in the gym?
Yeah, yeah. At that time, I mean, it had been like 20 years of me doing gymnastics, almost 20 years of me doing gymnastics. So it's been my life. It's still my life. It's definitely something that has consumed a lot of my time. But I love it, and it's my passion for sure.
And both you and I, as Armenian Americans, have an experience in this country. Unlike most people, we got the chance to live in Iowa. Okay.
Yes, go Hawks.
Yeah, you were
Where
there
were
for.
where were you in Iowa?
I was in Sioux City, Iowa,
Okay.
and that was the TV station I was at ever since 2021 to just a few months ago. So now I'm in Fresno,
Okay.
and I remember the harsh winters, the hot, mucky summers that were in Iowa. The fact that there wasn't that much diversity. Things would close at
Mhm.
9 or 10 o'clock at night if you
Definitely
were
no
lucky.
Armenians.
Exactly. I was gonna ask you to just continue that, just what that experience was like. You were in Des Moines, the capital, or at least you
I
were in
was
Ames,
I
right?
was in Iowa City. I was
Iowa
at the
City.
University of Iowa.
I get all those
You
cities
can't
mixed up.
confuse Iowa State and University of Iowa. No,
You're
I'm just
not
kidding.
wrong. You're not
Yeah.
wrong. But tell me
Yeah,
a
no,
little bit about that.
yeah. So I got recruited to join the gymnastics team at the University of Iowa. I was recruited by a whole bunch of different schools, but I ended up choosing Iowa because they had an excellent medical program, and I knew I wanted to go into medicine. My major, I was an athletic training major, and I wanted to do athletic training. And they were actually the only program that would allow me to be an athlete as well as be an athletic training major. Which after the fact, I get it because I'm spending 20 plus hours a week being a student athlete, doing my own training and my own stuff. And then on top of that, I was spending 20 plus hours a week going to another team's practices, being pretty much their healthcare provider, you know, on their days that they're working. But it was, what drew me to Iowa. They had a great program. They had a great gymnastics team, and that's how I ended up there. So I was there for 5 years. I still have a lot of Hawkeye spirit. I love the Hawks. But yeah, that's how I ended up there.
That's awesome. And you're originally from the East Coast, correct?
I am. I'm from Boston, just outside of Boston. So we definitely have a larger Armenian community,
Yeah.
mostly in, Watertown, Mass. So I grew up, right down the street from that. So moving to Iowa was a little bit of a culture shock. I live in Cleveland now, so still in the Midwest, but we do have a nice little Armenian community here, which is excellent. But definitely nothing the same as California where you're at, or Boston where I grew up.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's definitely a lot more Armenians here in California for sure. But now time to segue, and I want to just talk about Rio and just what that feeling was like, what the experiences were like, your flight over there, meeting the other Olympians, that opening ceremony, what your memories were like from competing. Talk to me about all that.
Yeah. It's always crazy to think back because I'm like, man, it was 8 years ago. Like, I can't believe that so much time has passed. But I can remember it like it was yesterday. And so my flight there, so you asked about my flight there. My flight there, I was flying from Cleveland to Miami, Miami to Rio. And my flight to Miami was delayed. And I was all worried that I was going to miss my flight and that I wasn't going to make it to Rio. And then it was just going to be this whole fiasco. So I was meeting, the Armenian Federation when I got there. And I ended up having like 20 minutes to get through like the airport, the Miami airport from like terminal A to terminal like H or something like that. I'm running through the airport, literally screaming, being like, I'm trying to go to the Olympics. Like, please let me
Oh my
like
gosh.
pass the line. Like, I don't know. People probably thought I was crazy, but I made it on my flight. Thank goodness. I don't run. I was like carrying my suitcase and my pillow, and like my whole body was sore from running through the airport. But I made it. My bags didn't make it, of course. So like I had no clothes for a couple of days in Rio, but it was fine. I got there, I got to my training sessions, and I ended up competing and it was great. But that was a fiasco in and of itself. But once I arrived, I met the whole delegation, which was pretty cool. It was interesting because everybody that was there was from, Armenia proper. I was the
Mhm.
only diasporan Armenian. And so it was a little bit of a struggle to kind of feel like I fit in with the rest of them. I think they were nice and welcoming, but I was a little bit seen as an outsider. But once I competed and kind of proved my worth and that I deserve to be there and that I am Armenian and, I'm doing this for the right reasons, I think I gained a little bit more respect from the federations, from the other athletes, from, more people than just the gymnastics team who I knew through the process of qualifications. I had done a couple of competitions with them and they were awesome. But that was definitely a challenge when I got there to really feel like I was part of Team Armenia. But once I left, I felt like I was amongst peers, which was great, and a really good experience. But other than that, what was the other thing? Oh, the opening ceremonies is what you wanted to know about.
Yes.
That was another fiasco. So I obviously wasn't in Armenia to like pick up my gear and my clothes and all of that stuff. And so I was worried that they would just forget my things or nobody would bring it. So I actually had a friend who was going to Armenia pick up my stuff. And I was like, you're going to be in Armenia. Please go get my things from the Armenian Olympic Committee. Please overnight it to me so that I can have it in my hands and make sure I have all of my things. And so that was a fiasco. I had my outfit, which was great. The coach that was assigned to me, he was like, nah, like they'll bring my stuff. They didn't bring his stuff, so he couldn't go to the opening ceremonies.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was like, thank goodness somebody got my things.
Or else you
Because
wouldn't
I
have been
wasn't
able to experience it. Yeah.
exactly. And the opening ceremonies is like I mean, obviously competing at the games is a highlight, but like the opening ceremonies is a highlight, right?
Yeah.
Like
Wonderful.
you as the athletes are the presentation, right? That's what everybody's waiting for. That's what the whole thing is all about. And as an athlete, you're bussed there for hours. Like we are waiting all day for this event, and we're just waiting and waiting and waiting. We can hear everything that's happening inside the arena, but we can't see anything because we're outside because we're the main attraction. And so finally, after hours of waiting, we're like shuffled through and we go like through the basement, through the tunnels, and then we finally open up into this arena that's just like this huge party. Everybody is screaming, and it is just like I remember looking around and being like, everyone is here for us. And like, what a crazy experience. Like, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful that there's all these people here cheering us on. Like, who knows if anybody knew that I was there, but I felt like everybody was cheering me on. And it was just such an incredible experience to be a part of that.
That sounds like an incredible experience, and that just popped another question into my mind. While you were in that whole Olympic experience, going and meeting other Olympians, did you meet any notable Olympians or any Olympians that you maybe knew of or wanted to meet that you had the chance to?
So most of the like high profile athletes did not stay in the Olympic Village. They, stayed who knows where, in a hotel. I think they're like the basketball team stayed on like a ship or something. Like, I don't know. But occasionally you would kind of run into people like I somehow ended up on the like when I went to go watch track and field, I ended up like on the practice like field. And so like Usain Bolt was like within arm's reach of me. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's Usain Bolt. Did I talk to him? No, but he was right there. So that was pretty cool. I met Simone Biles, a lot of the gymnastics people that were big deals then. I had a chance to either train with or, see on the bus or whatever. But other big name people, not really. I mean, I watched the big, like I watched Michael Phelps swim, but
Mhm.
I didn't get to meet him in person.
That's still pretty notable to be arm's reach from Usain Bolt and get to know Simone Biles and other U.S. Olympic gymnasts because those are very famous gymnasts. I've met Aly Raisman once before and she's very sweet. So that's really cool to have that sort of experience. Going from the athletes though to the fans, did you have any fan interactions in Brazil with any like Armenian supporters? Did you notice it while you were competing? Just what that environment was like when you were competing there?
I don't, I mean, I remember in the stands, I mean, I think it was probably my family that had like an Armenian flag waving. But I don't think like I had anybody come up to me. I don't remember like I was signing autographs for like little gymnastics fans, but I don't know if they were Armenians or anything of that sort. But I do know that like there was a lot of hype on the media, and I had a lot of people reach out to me via social media, email, like just sending me lots of really wonderful messages. So I had a lot of support going into the Olympics, after the Olympics, with just the whole experience. So
And by any chance, is that your outfit in the back from the Olympics?
yes, yep, that's my leotard.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So
Yeah.
I mean, it is a little bit tough to ask that question, especially for a country like Brazil that has a Armenian population, but it's not that large, so to say. But you could say that this coming Olympics this year in Paris, there could be more Armenians, especially because the country of France has about 500,000 Armenians. That was according to the latest numbers that I saw in my research. Um, but Armenians are going to possibly have some support in the upcoming Olympics, and I wanted to ask you about just representing your nation at the Olympics, what that was like, and when it really hit you, just what that feeling was like, just to be like, wow, I'm really at the Olympics, representing my country, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of build up to the Olympics. Like I wanted there to be a following. I wanted this experience to not only be my experience, but to be the experience of the Armenian community, of the gymnastics community, kind of everybody along this journey with me. And so I really felt that throughout the journey. And I like once I competed, like it was such an honor. Like you can see on my leotard, I have the flag right on my shoulder. Like I was Team Armenia 100%. I think I had, a little bit of reservations, feeling like, oh, I am a diasporan Armenian. I'm not going to be seen as a true Armenian, which I had a little bit of that when I first showed up. But I think seeing the amazing support from worldwide, Armenians literally worldwide, being excited about this journey that they were on with me, and the feedback, like so many people were tuned in, watched, and were like, you could see the joy and the honor radiating off of you, like when you were doing your gymnastics. And that was really what I wanted from that experience. And I wanted people to feel. So, I think it came across. It truly was an amazing thing. And I'm so glad to have had the opportunity to represent Armenia doing the thing that I absolutely love.
That's awesome, Huri. I think we are running out of time, so I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
What is one thing you would say to an aspiring young athlete, whether they're in gymnastics or not, that may one day pursue a journey to represent Armenia or represent whichever nation as an Armenian in the diaspora in the Olympics? What's one thing you would say to them?
Yeah. So I mean, my tagline back in the day was "It's never too late to deliver a dream." So I think it's really important. Like if you have something that you want to do, if there's something you've always dreamed of, like it's not impossible. Like as long as you put your work in, you have that dream, you have that drive, like you can make anything happen. It's really up to you to make those dreams happen, no matter if you're 16 and just eligible to do whatever it is, or you're 27 years old and saying, hey, this is my time. And it doesn't have to be athletics. If you want to write a book, write that book. If whatever it is, if you want to start a podcast, start that podcast. Just do what drives you, because ultimately you're in charge of your happiness, and it's never too late to make yourself happy. So, yeah.
Very well said, Huri. Thank you very much once again for joining us on the Armenian Sports Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.